So I guess we'll start now. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. It's very packed in here. Hopefully this will be a really fun session for everybody here. So just to give you an overview of the format, it's going to be mostly a presentation, but we're going to do some workshop stuff toward the end, and it'll be a little bit more interactive. But before we get started, let me introduce ourselves. We just wanted to do a little bit of, I guess, polling to sort of see who's in the audience here today.
Hi everybody, my name is Jared. It's pretty easy to remember. It's like the gallery of jewelry, J-A-R-E-Z. I just wanted to get a quick customer dev hand raise. Nice buzzword at the very beginning of this presentation, customer dev. So who here is a copywriter or a blogger? Wow, that's a lot of people. It's like almost half the room. Who here is a founder? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. Which founders have blogs already? Cool. Who is familiar with Galvanize? Who knows that you're in Galvanize right now? Cool. Okay, cool. This is great. I'm gonna hand it back to Mark now.
All right. That would have been really sad if people hadn't known that we were here. Okay. So today, just to go over some of the things that we're gonna focus on. Number one is conduct effective audience research, which Jared did a teeny bit of that right now, but we're gonna go later into what you can do to do more great research for your content. Number two is writing content that actually resonates with people so that people want to read, people end up coming back, people share with their friends. You'll get all that lovely web traffic. Number three is prioritizing your content backlog or content calendar. So I know a lot of people who are writers, we're juggling different pieces of content all at the same time. It can be overwhelming, and sometimes you can miss deadlines because you're not really prioritizing what's important, so we'll go over that. The next thing is distributing your content effectively. So, I'm sorry? Oh, Jared, your beautiful hair is in the way. He has really nice hair. So, distributing your content effectively. So obviously we know writing good content is a really important part of content marketing, but what's even actually more important, I would argue, is making sure that you're distributing it in the right places, which is a lesson we've learned the hard way on the Galvanize marketing team. And then the last thing is repurposing your content in other formats so you can get more bang for your buck. So first I want to go over who's on the team here. So we're all part of the Galvanize marketing team. I'm Mark Saldana. We have Jared, who just spoke, Bo Moore, and Danelle Abeta. And we're each going to go into a little bit about our background and what we do. So I focus a lot, my title is marketing manager. I focus a lot on PR, the website, just overall marketing content. One of the big things I do, so at Galvanize, if you're familiar with us, we have a lot of students and graduates who go through our program, so a big part of my job is figuring out how we can share their really awesome stories with the press. For example, earlier this summer we had this great New York Times piece go out about about a couple of our different students and their backgrounds and where they are today, which is really exciting. So getting that content ready for press and also putting that on the blog when applicable. I also collaborate a lot with our outcomes team, which is the team responsible for placing students at companies after graduation, so figuring out where students are going, figuring out what we can talk about, and figuring out what student projects we can really highlight on the blog or via other marketing channels. And I really just try to get the big picture of everything that's happening because there's so many different things going on in Galvanize, so many different programs, so many different kinds of diverse people here. And my background is in marketing. I used to work, my first job was at Box, which is the file sharing startup that IPO'd earlier this year. And then after that I worked at 500 Startups, which is a startup accelerator in San Francisco, which was a lot of fun. And they're now on TV, the show called Bazillion Dollar Club. I don't know if you guys seen it, but it's pretty wild. Next up is Danelle.
Hi everyone, so my name is Danelle Abeta, and for Galvanize, I'm a content producer. So what that really means in a nutshell is I just create content that appeals to our audience that really drives traffic. And I do a lot of this through social media, blogging, advertising, PR, just a little bit of everything in the marketing field. I previously worked for the Greater Pueblo Chamber of Commerce as a communications assistant, doing a lot of their social media right around the same area. And I am a self-described Python queen here at Galvanize. And,
the programming language.
Yeah, not snakes, don't get crazy.
My name is Jared Polivka, and I'm Galvanize's evangelist. Essentially what an evangelist is somebody who builds community. So I'm a technical community builder. I run our data science and learn to code meetups in 4 markets, and I also work a lot with the content team. So before becoming an evangelist at Galvanize, I was a product manager. Before that, I served as a marketing manager at Uber, And before that, I was a self-taught web developer. I used to code a lot. And I worked for myself back then. So, is there anything else there? No?
Hey, I'm Bo. So I'm Galvanize's storyteller, and the storyteller is sort of like an in-house journalist for the company. My background is in journalism. I used to write for Wired, and I will interview anyone in the Galvanize community, be that members, faculty, experts in their fields, and take what they tell me and translate that into interesting copy that is relevant and good for our audience to generate that in long form.
Awesome.
I usually work in long form content. Yeah, that's the word. Content.
So at Galvanize, we do have some unique advantages and challenges, and I think Jared's probably, being on the evangelist team, he's kind of at the intersection of all those things, so we have a really unique perspective on what we're up against.
So at Galvanize, we kind of write for a wide variety of readers. We have the entrepreneurial programming side of our company. So first and foremost, Galvanize is an education company. So we have to serve that entrepreneurial audience with content about product management, how to create your startup, product market fit, lean canvas, all these buzzwords that I'm throwing out, but it's all about like being a better founder. We also write a lot of content regarding learning how to code. We have a full stack immersive program, which is 6 months long, and we're reaching out and trying to rise above all the competition out there on the internet for free learn to code content. So there's a ton of free content out there, and it's like, how do we create quality stuff and rise above all the noise? And then we also have a data science immersive program, and we don't have as much competition in the data science realm, but there's still a lot out there, so we're always trying to create really useful, valuable content for our readers. It's a unique landscape. And so I just want to give a shout out to like our whole content team. Like we all have diverse backgrounds. Like I studied journalism in school, and then I learned how to code. And then Bo was at Wired. But we also have, they couldn't be here today, but we have Rebecca Samuelson, who's a badass, and she's in Seattle. And then we also have Emma. Oh, sorry.
He's a professional badass.
She's just a pro BAMF. Rebecca, she's amazing at SEO and paid marketing, and she helps us distribute our content. So we write great stuff. Without her, lots of people wouldn't see it, and it wouldn't have the opportunity to go viral. And then Emma is also a storyteller, but she's more on the video side of storytelling. So she produces a lot of the great videos that we have at the company.
All right, so we're gonna get to harsh truth number one for everybody. So not everything you do is interesting, and I know this is like a shock to many people. It's one of those things that it took me a while to learn as a marketer. We all get really excited about what we do every day, especially if we're founders. Like we're really tied to what is happening in the company, and we have a real emotional connection to it. But the reality is that for people out there who don't really know that much about you, it's gonna be a huge turnoff if you're just pushing out content that's like really self-promotional, or that just makes it clear that you're drinking a little bit too much of the company Kool-Aid. So I would say number one, when you approach your content strategy, really think about like, would I care about this thing if I didn't work here? And if the answer is no, you probably shouldn't spend time on it. So a couple examples of stuff that probably won't really get you repeat traffic. This may be stuff that you have to do just from like a PR perspective, but this isn't something that you should really think of as part of your content strategy. Also, this kind of stuff is just like not generally that fun to write. So anything about a new feature, this is great. It's not gonna like drive a ton of traffic and get like new people reading your content. Your newest round of funding, great. Again, tell your grandma about it, tell your mom about it, tell TechCrunch about it. Maybe get some press, but this isn't really gonna like get a ton of new readers to go to your site and get excited about what you're doing. New company partnerships, again, this is so you have to already be invested in the company to really care about that. And then the last thing is an awesome new hire. And these are all things that are valuable and necessary at times, especially me coming from a PR background and focusing on that, these are the kinds of things we just have to do sometimes. And in the form of a press release or getting TechCrunch to cover it, obviously it's very valuable, but for your readers who may turn into customers eventually, this is not the kind of stuff that they really care about. And then the second kind of category of content that is not really going to help you is just anything that's really selling your company way too hard. So, 3 tips for using our newest feature, or 3 reasons we're the best company in the world, or 10 of our favorite desk setups at our office. This is just stuff that's it might be cute and fun, but people aren't really going to care that much about it. And the last one is just doing any kind of like thought leadership stuff with your CEO. That can be really important, especially if you're really transparent and like actually provide valuable tips. But if I've seen a lot of sort of op-eds by CEOs that are just extended advertisements for the company, and that really doesn't do anybody, that's not really valuable for anybody. So now that we covered some of the things that we know that we probably should be focusing on, how do you figure out what you should be focusing on?
So for the founders in the room, you probably know that when you create a product, it has to solve a pain point. And we kind of approach content in that way. So content should be as useful as possible, and it should solve a pain for the reader. So you should be always thinking about your audience and always thinking about how can I alleviate their pain, how can I teach them something, how can I make their 5 to 15 minutes spent reading valuable, because time is money, and arguably time is the most valuable thing we have. So how do we use that time well? So we like to come up with a content hypothesis, just like you would come up with a feature hypothesis in product. It might be like, I hypothesize that. Go ahead, Mark. Oh, it's okay. Okay. Sorry. So we often do, before you craft your hypothesis, you need to know your audience, and you need to do some market research. So it's really hard to take a shot in the dark and create a good hypothesis without getting data first. So a good way to do market research, there's lots of different tools out there. We often use Quora to find different data science topics that are trending and that are like highly voted on Quora. The caveat with Quora is that it's you'll get tunnel vision, so like anything, take it with a grain of salt. It is very tech focused. You want to make sure that you're really looking at all these different sources and constantly educating yourself on your target audience and putting yourself in your user's shoes or your reader's shoes. So a couple other ways to do like audience customer dev or audience development is to poll your readers. So we run meetups in each city. We run a data science meetup. We run a learn to code meetup. We survey our meetup members to know what they want to read about, to know what kind of workshops they want to learn about, what they want in the meetup. That's a great data point. There's lots of other ways too. So you can do informal polls in your blog. You can poll your email list. So if you have a bunch of subscribers, go ahead and create a type form survey and survey your audience. Try to figure out what they're really interested in, what they're passionate about. Especially when you're a founder and you're kind of growing your blog from the ground up, and you have that early adopter reader base of like 200 email subscribers. Those are the people that are going to help you push your content over that tipping point to become, shared on Reddit, shared on DataTow, shared on all these different networks that will help you get more views. And you want to be crafting content with that audience in mind. So an example of a content hypothesis is kind of like, this post will help blank learn how to blank and should result in blank page views. So first we start out with the audience, the persona, who's my user. In this case, this post will help data scientists learn how to approach data privacy and should result in 2,000 page views in the first week. And this was the post we recently did about Ashley Madison. And we were a little bit off in our guesstimate. It resulted in 1,820 page views in the first week. And another point is that sometimes content has to be timely. So in this case, in this example, we were a little late. The Ashley Madison stuff had come out. We were a little bit late on getting this post out. We always have lots of plates spinning. We probably could have gotten 3,000 unique views in the first week or more if we would have gotten it out a little bit early. So another thing about, like I just mentioned, our content team is spinning a lot of plates all the time. We always have this big editorial calendar. Bo's working on 4 things, Danelle's working on 4 things, Mark's working on 80 things, and we're all working on a lot of stuff. So how do you prioritize what goes out first, and how do you prioritize that backlog? So in product management, my background is all about prioritization. And so at Galvanize, what we like to do is we ask ourselves, is this timely? Like the Ashley Madison example we just covered. If it is timely, I might want to prioritize that higher in the backlog to get it out so we can capitalize on the trend. We use Google Trends. That's a great tool to use to figure out what's trending right now. Another thing is that you can kind of t-shirt size your content. So by t-shirt sizing, what I mean is So who here, raise your hand if you're familiar with Agile methodologies? Okay, wow, a lot of people. So who here does a daily stand-up? Cool, good amount of people in the room. So with prioritizing and doing a t-shirt size, that's often what you do with development teams to figure out how complicated is this. So that's the whole concept behind t-shirt sizing when you're prioritizing. Quantity is shit. Focus on quality. So if you get one post out this month and it's great, do that rather than doing like 2 posts in a week that are mediocre.
And I just added this note at the bottom about being timely doesn't necessarily mean writing something about, bring your dog to work day. I've been in positions before where people are like, well, we should really write a blog post about Mother's Day. We have to get it out today. It's like, honestly, what is that going to do for you? Nothing. Like, don't even waste time on it. Maybe if you're a company that's focused on mothers, like obviously that makes sense. They're part of your target demographic. But if you're like, I don't know, a company that delivers shoes, like Mother's Day, probably, unless you're doing a promo, it's not really going to be something that people necessarily care about. You shouldn't prioritize that. So now you decided what to write. Let's cover the how, Bo.
The next slide then. So there's a lot of different ways. Is my mic good? Is it? I don't know. It sounds quieter.
That's fine.
So there's a lot of different ways to prioritize basically making good content. We'll start with the headline, since it's usually something that comes last, but also, so when you start with a good headline, before you start even writing a thing, you should know, like, what is this post? And so a really good strategy is to write, it's the Upworthy strategy, where Upworthy has really annoying headlines, but they also drive traffic. And so you write a lot of headlines, way more than you think you need, and then write some more. Because eventually you'll stop writing the same headline over and over again and start trying to think outside the box and realize, oh wait, now we have a good headline. Another really important thing is when you're writing the post, don't get in the way of the actual content. If you're interviewing someone, don't talk about what you were doing with them, talk about what they are doing. Because the important part of the content is the content, it's the subject, it's not you. You don't need to be talking about you. So, and that goes hand in hand with talking to experts. Experts are a really great place to drive content. From my journalism background, I would cover all manner of topics that I didn't know a lot about, but I would talk to experts and then translate their expert knowledge into things for the audience. Can't read the next slide, it's very far.
Sorry. Just so decide on the format and stick to it. So one of the most important things I think before you start writing is to decide, like, okay, we're going to do a top 10 list. We're going to do 5 tools everybody should know. We're going to do an interview. That'll really help you stay on track and not just ramble. It really sucks to spend time writing something that you're excited about and get to the end and realize you really didn't say anything or that it's confusing. So sticking to that is really, really helpful. The next thing we have on here is a style guide, and Bo is actually really instrumental in us implementing that. So we have a unique challenge here because we have so many different programs, different members at Galvanize, different audiences we work with. So it was a matter of like, okay, when we talk about Galvanize data science, do we always write Galvanize data?
Capitalize data science? Do we capitalize the D and the S? Is it one word? Is it 2 words? Is it hyphenated? All these different things. There's a lot of words that people write different ways, and when you have 2 different posts going up, and in one it's written data science 1 word, and in another it's written data science 2 words, that looks inconsistent and sloppy, and even worse if it's in the same post. And so just having a central document, it's really easy to make like a Google Doc that I share with your entire team, and you can say when you write these words, it's both following grammar and it's like, what's the word? Dictionary.
Dictionary?
Yeah,
Following dictionary.
Use the dictionary and a style guide.
Well, I mean, the most important thing I think is just like the consistency of it. Like, even if it's like wrong according to somebody else, if you're at least consistent, like it won't be distracting, and like I said, you won't waste time figuring out how to write something because you know the right way to do it. And a small example of this is like we actually do a lot of interviews with people, and we notice after writing we had a couple blog posts up about where we would quote people, and Bo's like, in one we say said, and then the other one we say says, like what tense are we using when we talk about people? And like we decided on that, and now we don't have to spend time thinking about like which way do we say this, like we know exactly how to say it, especially in interviews, we know how to quote people the right way. And then the last thing here is just finishing strong with a good conclusion and a CTA that's logical. So if you've written something about a specific topic your customers might be interested in, at the end of it, that's your opportunity to drive them somewhere. Not necessarily to purchase your product or anything like that, but if you have another awesome piece of content they can check out that like sort of follows logically. So whether it's like subscribing to your YouTube channel, if you have more resources, going to another blog post in the past, like we have blog posts that have performed like extremely well for like a long period of time. Like there are probably 2 or 3 data science blog posts that like won't die. Like we see them in Google Analytics every week as like the top 5, and we're like, what the hell's going on? But because they're so highly ranked, like we go back and link to other blog posts from those because those posts are getting so much traffic, we might as well capitalize on that and get people to go to another data science post that makes sense after that. The next important thing.
Right. You don't want to expect readers to come to you. So, you're thinking to yourself, if I write it, they will come. And that's not always the truth. Just how we talked about, in the first couple of slides saying that, everything you do is interesting when really it's not. It'll go viral. You really have to create a piece of content that fits your audience for that to happen. You can't just assume whatever you write is just gonna go. Whether you put it on social media, your blog, anything, no matter how many followers you have, you really have to fit what you write to your audience. So this is the expectation you have when you're writing. You're like, oh my gosh, people are crying. This is the best piece of content of my life. This is what you want, but this is what really happens. And you don't want to get down on yourself when this happens either, because it happens quite often.
It's happened to us. I mean, and it's not even a matter of the content being good. You can have like really well-written content that's like thoroughly researched that is just amazing. But if you don't distribute it the right way or write the right headline or do SEO to make sure people are finding it, like it will literally get like no views. And when we were first sort of coming up with our content strategy earlier this year, we're all still pretty new at the Galvanize marketing team is still pretty new, so we've been doing this stuff for maybe like 6 months. When we first started putting content together, we really put a lot of time into it, we were excited about it, and then we looked at Google Analytics and it was like 150 page views. It was really depressing. And a lot of it was because we didn't pay attention to these really, really important distribution tactics.
Yeah, it really comes down to tailoring your content to your audience. That's what it definitely comes down to. Just like Mark said, you can create the best thing you've ever written and it won't matter because it's not for your audience. But, so just some tips and tricks for this. SEO is really good, just like Bo mentioned earlier. You really want to create titles that really, really draw in your audience. It's really helpful and everything. So you really want to have mailing lists, newsletters, everything like that. Twitter, anything on social media is really good for distribution.
Yeah, like we've found a couple Twitter chats that are about either sort of learn to code or beginning programmers or like, women in tech or data science, and like those are really great places for us to go in and like provide value. We're not selling ourselves super hard, we're just participating and saying like, hey everyone, like, first of all, we're doing some like audience research, right? Seeing what people are talking about. But then we're also, responding with like, if somebody has a question about, like, I want to learn more about Python. It's like, well, we have this resource about learning more about Python, like check it out. So we're being helpful, right? We're not like selling them on Galvanize super hard.
Regarding the bullet point of other companies, orgs, foundations, etc., involved in the topic, just like Mark said, it's not self-promotional. We're often, providing resources and providing information that celebrates the work of others. So, Bo wrote a really great post on tools on the Python horizon that was like trending for a while. That's why he's the Python king. And Danelle wrote a really great post, which is why she's the Python queen. And each of those posts got like over 30,000 unique views. And the people who created those data science tools and those Python libraries, they were all promoting the hell out of their posts because we were celebrating them and showing, we're giving them a shout out in the post as well. So when you can bring in other companies that have a large user base that they can promote to, and when you can celebrate, awesome things and other tools that are out there and awesome information out there, it's not necessarily that we internally created, but a lot of people don't know about, that can get you a lot of traffic.
And another bullet point on there says, like other companies and everything. So just like Jared said, if you're writing a post that has experts in it and you're really like promoting them as well. You want to promote the companies that are in your post or that you interview or anything as well.
Yeah, and another thing that's sort of unique to us but has been really effective is there are a lot of very niche forums and sites for data science, which has been, it's just a really, really hot topic right now. So we're sort of capitalizing on that trend and the fact that there isn't a whole lot of content out there compared to, say, learning how to program. So for us, posting stuff on like Reddit's data science, machine learning forums, Data Tao, which is essentially like Hacker News but for data science, we'll put like pretty high quality stuff there and then see traffic come there through those channels. So that's been really helpful. So depending on what your company does, maybe there might be some stuff on Reddit. If you're doing something highly technical, Hacker News might make sense. It just really depends on the topic. And then I just want to say something quickly about the reporters and press bullet. Be very restrained whenever you send something you've written to reporters. Always default to being helpful and not to being self-promotional. So say you have a company that writes about, it's like a sports app or something. If you know that there's a writer for like Gawker who writes about sports and you have this like cool piece of technology that you wrote about, like post it on your blog, send it to them and say like, hey, I know you write about sports technology and like, whatever. This might be really cool, check it out. And just sort of leave it at that. Don't expect them to publish it, don't expect them to tweet it. Like it's really just establishing yourself as a resource and maybe, in the future they'll link to that post when they write about something similar in that topic. I think Bo, you might have some good insights here being on the other side of, the pitch in the past.
Yeah, having come from journalism, like journalists get flooded with pitches 1,000 times a day, and if you just have to really engage them and be helpful. They get so many pitches that if it's just super self-promotional, usually they do not care at all. And especially in that case, you don't want to alienate the audience being the journalist itself. You don't want to be super pushy, you don't want to get angry if they don't post. You want to cultivate that relationship by trying to be helpful for them, send them stuff that you think will be relevant. Definitely always find the journalist who is relevant to your audience, because pitching somebody who writes about video games to write about your hardware startup is probably not a good idea because they do not care at all.
Yeah, and it's really just about not having expectations and being helpful. So a good example of this that I just remembered, when I worked at 500 Startups, there was this real estate company based in New York called Comstack, and they basically looked at, I forget exactly what it was, but they would figure out like prices for commercial real estate in New York, and they had like access to this huge database of like real estate numbers that nobody else had. So they actually would consistently like write up reports and then send those over to the Wall Street Journal reporter who did real estate. And like they were cited in every single Wall Street Journal real estate article, right? Which probably got them like a ton of traffic and brand recognition. And they just did that to be helpful and to build that relationship. So it wasn't about asking the person to promote them. It's like, I have information that is helpful to you. Here it is, do what you want with it. Hopefully you link back to it someday. So we're just gonna wrap up this section with some various tips and tricks. What I want to emphasize is really just always think about trends. One thing that we're really thinking about right now is that the election is coming up, so there are a lot of opportunities for data science to be used in interesting ways to either predict sort of election results, look at candidates, all that kind of cool stuff. Using data science for stuff like that is really like limitless possibilities, so we're really thinking about what we can do to capitalize on what people are talking about. Another thing in the election, specifically for us, is that obviously like job creation, the economy, that's always at the forefront of people's and candidates' minds. So for a company like ours that focuses on teaching people technical skills, like that's really a good way for us to be part of the conversation and put content out there that's relevant to what's happening. A second tip, which Danelle has some like good advice on being a beginner in a topic and learning a lot.
Definitely. So when I first started at Galvanize, I didn't really have a huge tech background. I came from communications, marketing, all that good stuff, but when it comes to talking about data science or programming or anything, I learned this much programming in college, and I can build you the most basic website you've ever seen in your entire life, but I didn't know too much about anything. And when I first started, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? But you just learn. If you're willing to learn, you can do it. I studied a lot of data science as we went through and talked through experts, talked to our instructors, talked to everything, talked to our students. Just if you're willing to learn and put in the work, you can definitely do it. And you really need to have also a passion for it. You really have to do it. You just gotta do it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if you learn something, like you can translate that into content. Like if you've learned it, the best way to sort of like make sure you understand it is to teach it to somebody else. And a good way to do that is by writing something about it.
Yeah, and on that note, like that in and of itself becomes really good content, because if you're learning it, it's something that also you can teach others, and there are beginners out there who also don't know these things. And if it's something that's relevant to your audience, you want to educate people on why your thing is cool. So if you're learning about it yourself, in teaching it to them, you're helping them build their knowledge and also build their interest in your company and your content. And then on to the next point, put on your journalism hat, talk to people, interview experts, interview your own staff if need be. Talk to people and have them tell their stories, get out of their way, and they have cool stuff to say. You are building cool stuff most of the time, and tell those stories. Let people know, get that out there.
And then just to emphasize the concept of being useful and creating educational, useful, as well as entertaining content. So I was at Social Media Marketing World in 2013. I met this guy named Jay Baer, and he wrote this book called Utility. And I really like the concept of just that word, utility, where your content should be useful to people and educational. But you have to know your audience. So just to like hammer that point one more time, at Galvanize we're really lucky because we get to talk with our full stack students who study right down the hall, and we'll ask them about what interesting topics or things that they're learning. We'll talk with our full stack faculty. We'll talk with our data science faculty. We'll talk with our data science students. We poll our meetup groups. We poll the users on our email list. And then we also do a ton of market research. So really just reaching out to people and doing kind of either informal customer dev hand raise or legit like surveys. It's a really good way just to kind of get a pulse for the market and what people want to know.
Okay, now comes the fun part. So we're going to spend maybe not 15 minutes, maybe just 5 minutes, depending on how everybody does, doing this audience assignment. So I think this will be a good way for everybody to start thinking about what they want to write about next and what might be useful for their potential customers. So first part, come up with 3 headlines or concept. Think about if there's a way to make it into a trend. Like, don't worry about making it perfect. Just think of something that might be valuable to your readers. Number 2 is who cares about it? Why do they care about it? Number 3, write maybe 2 sentences about the actual content. Next is describe any resources you need. So if you need to interview an expert, if you need to go to a conference to learn more about it, if you need to watch a YouTube video, whatever, just list that there. Next is just maybe some unique ways you'll promote it, whether it's in forums or in a company's newsletter, organization's newsletter, something like that. And then finally, is there a way to put it in a different format to get more mileage from it? So we'll spend about 5 minutes on that, and then hopefully people will want to maybe share some of the ideas that they've come up with so we can maybe workshop them. Looks like everybody was getting busy. Does anybody want to share a little bit about what they came up with? Any volunteers? Oh, some people over there. You're eager. Here you go. And if you could just say your name and what company you work for and what your role is.
I'm Lisa Schwab, and I'm with Galvanize Outfitters, and I am marketing, digital media, strategy. There's 3 of us on everything. Okay, so some of our 3 headlines were, so Galvanize is about empowering women to get into the outdoors on their own. It's not anti-man, which is pro-chick, and overcoming the barriers of why we don't do that on our own. So one of our headlines is, does this backpack make my butt look big? And the women are laughing, the men are like, what? And it's about a style guide and how to put all your stuff together in the outdoors if you're not used to doing that. So people that would be interested in that would be women that aren't, like I just had to do this and I spent 2.5 hours in REI with the guy putting all the stuff in the backpack, and then the whole time I was like, what does this look like though? Because it was for a first date, and I wanted to look good too. So the resources we would need for that are like a stylist, a backpack fitting tips, maybe having an avatar, showing what backpacks look like, so lots of visuals with that. Another one was, is your boyfriend trying to kill you? Because we have a lot of stories in the outdoors. So we have a lot of stories about men, like that said first date was a guy asking me if I wanted to climb a 14er with him, and I said, sure, what do I need? And he said, just some shoes and a backpack. So we have a lot of stories about ruined women in the outdoors because their guys are like, it's cool, you got it, babe, and then they almost die. So women, anyone would be interested in that because it's a funny headline, it's totally upworthy too. And then we had one, everyone is ripped and hanging from a cliff. So that's your perception of like when you move to a place like Colorado from someplace else is that everyone is really ripped and they are hanging from cliffs all the time. So that would be for newbies and people that just weren't really into the outdoors and kind of calming down their fears and intimidation about it. I didn't really get further than that other than we would do Facebook, Instagram for some of them that had great visuals and link back, and then I didn't get to the part where we put it in different formats to get more mileage. But, thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, those are great. You guys are awesome. You guys are like a really visual company for anybody who has like really pretty products. Obviously, like Instagram was like a huge place to really get more traffic or just get people excited about what you're doing. I'm sure there are other places to like share really high quality images, but Instagram is probably like one of the best ones. Does anybody else want to share? That was great.
I was going to say for bringing your content into different formats, like the does my backpack make my butt look big? That would probably play really well in like a video or something. So you could like show off different backpacks and like have models doing that. So.
Yeah, I like that. I want to see that. I want to know if that. Anybody else want to share?
Yeah.
Even if you're in the back, you take the mic to you. Okay.
Hi, my name's Charles, and I actually have a traditional marketing and media background, but I have a physical product that I'm making today, so I'm kind of out of place here with all you digital nerds. Anyway, so we've got a couple of content people that are here, and two of us that are physical products, and we came up with the fact that convincing the old guys that digital media is important. It's something that TV's still around and it's still big as far as I'm concerned, but the reality is that there is a major shift in convincing the boards to adjust their funding from being traditional TV print into actually being more digital. Marketing is becoming a significant and important matter, especially at large companies. Live content versus printed. This was something that was pointed out over here that it's going, with Twitter and with Periscope and with all these other new forms of media. I mean, it's hyper active. It's not interactive. It's hyperactive. It's in your face. It's here now. Right now, somebody could be recording this with Periscope, and we're live on TV. Over there I am. Hey guys. And there's an interesting form of media where you can actually integrate events with actually advertising. You can do a holistic approach to merge the two, which is pretty amazing. And then we got traditional media as a whole, which is not dead as far as I'm concerned.
Those are three separate headlines?
Those are three separate headlines. The headlines that we came up with were traditional content is not dead. It's all about the content, dummy. So that one is the fact that it doesn't matter whether it is traditional media or current media, it's still about the content. It doesn't matter where you put it.
Who's your persona? Who's your target audience?
Well, in this particular branding session, it was marketing professionals and startups. And we were going to promote it through various forums and Facebook, Twitter, and the likes.
Thanks, Charles. Appreciate it.
Anybody else in the back want to share? Oh, yeah. He didn't raise his hand though. Okay, I wasn't sure. I didn't want to put someone on the spot if they were comfortable.
Okie dokie. My name is Dimitri, and this is my friendager, Sandra. We have a dog grooming salon called Sweet Pea Pet Spa.
Can you stand up, please?
I could. So we have a dog grooming salon called Sweet Pea Pet Spa, 3511 South Logan, Inglewood, right by Swedish. But in our neighborhood, there's a mixture of younger people and older people. It seems like it's 50-50. And we noticed that the dogs of the older people, sometimes they're in bad shape. And we're thinking it's because of fixed income maybe. So we've implemented a huge discount for people over 65. My biggest thing is getting it out so they know about it. And I used to be a comedian, so everything I do when I'm not upset is a joke. So we were talking about an ad campaign, and I only thought of one headline, and it was, let us shower you in your golden years. And I know you said think of 3, but I think I'm gonna run with that one. So now I just need the content to go with it. And Sean's gonna help me with that probably. But yeah, that's the only headline we thought of. And why would they, and the reason they would care about it is because these people, obviously, they're pet owners, they love their dogs, and just because they can't adequately care for them because of financial restraints, we want to help them with that. So just to let them know, I need to figure a way to get that out. So back to you, sir.
Thank you. I have trouble following that up. Let's do one more. Does one more person want to share? Okay, cool. Perfect.
Hi, my name's Randy and I work at Barocas PR, and these are my coworkers right here. A trend right now is water on Mars. We wanted to tie into that. So a couple headline ideas we had are water on Mars, why you should care, and water on Mars versus water on Earth. Just trying to make it appealing to people like myself who think it's kind of interesting but don't really know what it means for if there's life on Mars or water or whatever. So.
This is for like you guys or a client? Like this kind of
Like an energy client.
Yeah, for a client. Yeah. And yeah, the article would be about for anyone who isn't, really savvy in science or space, who just wants to know more about it. Pretty much, it's a really broad audience that it could be fitting for. And what other?
Yeah, if you guys have energy clients, like this is the perfect time to start talking about water.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just with like, obviously there's drought and then water on Mars, it's just at the top of mind for everybody right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of pushing it out, we're thinking Twitter, Facebook, any like Reddit conversations about it. I'm sure there are a lot right now.
Our space, it's like everybody's on Mars, talking about Mars, so.
Yeah. And then a different format that we could put it in. We were thinking it could be fun to do like a quiz or one of those like maps where it's like if this, then this, that could take you through like what it means if the water has this, or just something kind of visual and fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. So before we're gonna wrap it up with some Q&A, but we actually have like a blog post version of this talk up at galvanize.com/blog that has the slides, and we'll have the live stream link there too after the stream is over. So I would say just check that out if you want to reference anything, and also it would be super awesome if everybody here went to the comments and then posted some of your ideas that you came up with today so we can all see them, and then maybe other people can comment there and help people with their ideas and help them develop them and what they're going to be working on over the next couple weeks. But yeah, we're just going to wrap it up with some question time. So just general questions from anybody for us, like we're happy to answer them. Okay, I'm just going to pass this around.
I guess my question is, you put up something about quality over quantity, and especially in the early times, like I work for a young startup, and how do I know if it's quality? Because I've often read people say, I spent hours and hours on this post, and it was garbage, and I spent very little time on one, and it ended up being my best post ever. So as you're writing and brainstorming and coming up with ideas, how do you know what is quality versus just another one?
I would just say, this is where that like content hypothesis really comes into play. At the end of the day, we obviously want high quality content that also drives page views, but sometimes it's sort of luck of the draw, a combination of trends, somebody picking it up who's influential. Like if you hypothesize, if you're investing a lot of time in something, and you hypothesize we're going to get 10,000 page views, and then you put it out and you get like 200, like that's probably not a topic, or the way that you approached it was not correct, right? So the hypothesis allows you to like be wrong, and then hopefully learn from that and either go in another direction or refine what you're doing. I mean, that's really the way that we've kind of looked at it. Like I said early on, we had a lot of content we hypothesized it would get us a lot of traffic because it was like really well written or it was really in depth, but it just wasn't providing value to the people who we need to provide value to, so like beginning data scientists and programmers. So we've really shifted a lot of our strategy based on like those early sort of incorrect hypotheses.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
So I think what I noticed a lot is that working with clients is that there's not someone devoted to writing. Right? I mean, you've got these marketing staff that are like struggling to do the social media. And I mean, I'm surprised at Galvanize you guys have, I mean, you've probably got 2 writers, which is awesome. But most places just don't have that. And so they're like, and I guess I would say as a copywriter who's run a business for a long time, like they're struggling and they just need somebody even part-time to come in and look at these blog posts and like just do an edit, a fresh set of eyes, a fresh set of creative eyes, or just to match back to the hypothesis. So you don't even need a full-time staff writer, but you do need like a part-time, editor or curator of content, and that's me.
I mean, it's also one of those things where just having multiple people on the content marketing side really helps to give you sort of a sanity check to make sure you're not drinking too much Kool-Aid and that this is actually like objectively interesting.
So can I kind of jump in and ask a quick question on that topic?
Sure.
So as a founder, right, a lot of people that are sitting around me are marketing people, copywriters, that kind of thing. I'm a founder whose business has grown to a point where it is no longer, necessarily like a super small business. We have a significant amount of employees, 2 locations, and pretty good sized revenue. And so we're at a place where just having like the staff do this stuff is not really cutting it anymore because we're losing consistency. And so how do you find a company that you can afford part-time to do, like we were trying to find like an intern or something like that, like someone that can commit to us 5 hours a week, because I've tried like the route of finding people online, but then it's not authentic and it's like, you know what I mean, it's just not relatable. And really someone who can help direct us, because our staff will do a lot of the work, but we just need someone who to direct the consistency.
So I don't know what your bandwidth is like, but you as the founder know it inside and out, like your company and the stuff you want to write about and what your audience wants. You have the hypothesis and you can test that and do market research. But I don't think 5 hours a week is like enough, personally, unless you're as badass as Beth Cooper. So that's a really good blog that I wanted to a good blog post I wanted to reference to his question earlier and to your question, is like how to cut your content time to 4 hours, from days to 4 hours. So it's by Beth Cooper. She writes for Buffer. It's a really great blog post, but kind of goes into this whole idea of quality versus quantity. And I'm not saying that you should be slow. I'm not saying you should do 1 post a month. Like we do a lot of posts. We have several posts coming out each week. But some posts take longer than others. And it depends on your flow. Like it takes me like 2 days to write a post. It takes these guys like 5 to 10 hours, I think. Like they're just way faster than me. So I would say that depending on your team, depending on their level of expertise, I would say maybe you should write, maybe you should write like 10 hours a week and see how that goes. Give it a try and see how it performs and measure it.
You mean write myself?
Yep. You know it better than anybody. And you can also create the style guide like Bo created earlier for your company and get a flow going, a process going.
Yeah, well, I mean, I own 2 salons. We have 40 employees and we're launching a product line right now. So I mean, we're at like, 2 million in revenue right now. So I mean, we're like a significantly sized business, I guess. And it's like, I'm managing all of these employees and launching the new company. And so it's like so hard to, I know I need to hire someone for that role, but we don't really have the budget, with starting the new product line to do that. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't have 10 hours a week for sure.
Yeah, what I would say is there are writers out there, there are so many writers who are begging for work, and more than anything, consistent work, because there are online content mills, and that, I don't know if you've worked with those before, but as a writer, they a lot of times suck because you're working with different clients, you're working all over the place, and it doesn't give you the chance to build up that consistency of, as we were talking about, being a beginner in a thing, learning the topic. And so whether it's, basically just finding a freelance writer who you can hire for.
How would you go about finding someone like that? I mean, like, I don't know, want to just.
Post an ad on Craigslist.
Yeah.
Say,
Yeah.
like, look for hiring a writer, and more importantly, pay your writers.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't pay your writers, they're going to produce shit content. But if you pay them, they will want to write for you.
I was going to say, I mean, depending on what industry you're in, you can probably find people who are spending time on their own writing about something. If it's like, salons, I don't know, I'm sure there are people who are like hair bloggers, just like they're like beauty vloggers. Like, these people don't make money doing that. So you can go to them and say, hey, I want to pay you to write 3 things a week. Yeah, like, you're already doing this, we'd love to have you. Like, they might even already have an established reader base, right, which is really awesome, because then you'll like get attention from that. So I would say, depending on your industry, I mean, the beauty industry on the internet is like insane. Like, it's crazy.
I want to touch on a subject that's going to be a great segue. I've gone out and I've been trying to find content writers for some time, and a lot of them are coming back with, I want $75 to $100 per hour, and that includes researching, and that includes this and that. I don't have a $5,000 a month budget. I don't have a $50,000 or $80,000 a year position that I'm trying to hire for. So, I'm finding myself in this quandary. I can go online to the content mills and know that I can get content, but at the same time, I want quality content, but I can't seem to find somebody that seems to be reasonable. And what's considered reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so we are definitely in kind of a unique position because Galvanize as a company, we decided that content was going to be a big part of our marketing strategy, so we invested like staff resources in that, right? So it's like, I came on to do marketing, and then we decided to hire a full-time writer, and then Jared's an evangelist who focuses somewhat on that. Danelle focuses like exclusively on writing and social media. Then we have a videographer, and then we have somebody else who does SEO. So like, we've invested a lot, right, in building up this content marketing team. But for people who maybe don't have the ability to make that kind of investment, I would say if I were a founder really cash strapped, and I'm like, I need a good writer, I would just look for somebody who's like fresh out of college, like really eager, and is a good writer. I mean, that's how I know a lot of my friends who are very successful in marketing like got their start, that they just got into a writing position, were really hungry to learn, and obviously like you're not going to be spending like mega bucks for somebody who's just straight out of college as an employee. Oh, sorry, somebody.
Can you talk about your content calendar? How far out you plan? How it changes?
Yeah. So,
I'm just curious, but we keep one out where I work.
Yeah, so we use Asana for all of our kind of project management, so we have a whole section that's just content. And what we generally do is every Monday, to get into the nitty-gritty of like how we kind of structure everything, so every morning we have a 15-minute stand-up where we just go through everything we're working on, whether it's like content or other marketing stuff or PR, whatever, just so we all know what's happening. Then every Monday we have a content planning meeting where we spend an hour going through what we went through last week, what got held up, why it got held up, what is coming up for the next 2 weeks, and then sometimes we actually have 3 or 4 weeks planned out, but then usually 2 weeks are pretty solid. We also have, I feel like it's kind of ridiculous to plan like months ahead because, who knows what's gonna happen. But we also, when we have like really ambitious ideas that we know we don't have time for this week or next week, we'll put them on the calendar maybe a month in the future so we know every meeting we go over what's on the calendar to figure out like what's coming up, what do we need to focus on, what is, what deadlines are gonna slip. So for us it's generally 2 weeks and we use Asana for that, all that kind of stuff. Question over there.
I was just wondering, I have a marketing and video production company, and the hardest thing for me is knowing what to write about, because it's kind of like a lot of the work I do is business to business. So, a marketing company hires me for video, or I get hired as a project manager on a film marketing campaign or something like that. So, in terms of running my own blog for my business, I just don't know like what sorts of things in terms of your audience research piece. I don't know who my audience should be.
Yeah, so if you're B2B, so we're not a B2B company, right? We're focused on students who are going to come in and learn data science and programming. So we're trying to create like free resources for people, even if they don't come to Galvanize, just so they can like learn those basics. So that is not a B2B business. But when you're B2B, so I used to work at Box, which is like a very B2B focused business. Traffic is not like the best indicator of you being successful. Like sometimes you might have like really low numbers, but the people who are coming are like really, really, really qualified people who will eventually turn into customers, right? So it's really just figuring out, do customer research with the people who are buying your product and figure out like what were you looking for when you decided to use my product? Like, what do you not know how to do that you want to learn how to do that would make your job better? That kind of stuff.
Hi.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I have mic. I just have a question, especially for Bo, but for all of you. So when it comes to pitch writing, you said you have to be very helpful to your journalists, put yourself in their shoes. As far as format goes and subject and content is concerned, what do you think caught your attention most as a journalist? So was it subject line? Do you sometimes not even open emails based on the subject? Was it bulleted? Was it long? Was it short? Anything along those lines?
It's a really great question, and it's a really hard question to answer because it's so specific to the person, and also, sometimes people won't open an email because they are eating lunch. Sometimes, you never quite know why your thing got picked up or not. Having said that, short, simple, to the point, be helpful, and probably more than anything, research who you're pitching. Like, we hate getting blast emails. Like, sometimes they work, but they're blasts. It's a shotgun blast for a reason. Very little of it actually sticks. And we have had a lot more success rather than doing a shotgun blast to people all over to target your pitches to the audience. Going to not just the publication, but the writer at the publication and say, like, okay, at this place, this is a publication that our customer base is a reader of, and then within that, find the writer at that place who hypothetically would write your thing. If perhaps you can read different things and say, like, I would love to have, if you read an article that says, like, this is what I want written, but about me instead of about them. Figure out who wrote that, and then pitch them. Like, hey, we have this thing, be useful to them, and pitch them directly.
Is timing a factor? Like any time of day, any day?
Yes, timing less than a time of day or a week is time when it's relevant to you. Because what I mean by that is just saying, hey, we're this thing and we're cool, is less relevant to a writer than this is a thing, we're cool, and we have a thing coming out. This would go, yeah. So, how we were saying earlier, like, it's, you don't really want to make content yourself about, like, new features, but if you have new features coming out, that's what the journalist would care about. Simply having a cool company, like, for journalists, they want to know, why should I be writing about you right now?
Like, a funny, quick example of that is there's this company that was in Freshman Sharps that they're actually doing really well. They do cookie delivery in San Francisco. They're called Dobies? I forget. Yeah. They wanted to get the attention of, like, a couple different journalists in San Francisco, and what they basically came up with, that we kind of worked together, they wanted to do a daily promotion, like, they were going to do 1 day free delivery in San Francisco of their cookies, right? So the way that they made it, like, timely to that person was, like, tomorrow, free cookie delivery, do you want to learn more? And then they were, like, the Bolt Italic, which I don't think they're around anymore, but they wrote about it. So that was, like, a way, it's like, don't miss out on this thing happening tomorrow that my company's doing that's really cool. Yeah. Oh, you already moved on. Sorry.
It's on. My question, Bo kind of touched on it a little bit there with the answer to the last question, but I'm going back to our little task list and where we were at the point about where we're going to distribute the material, the content. And I mean, that sounds like a good approach. Try to find someone who's writing something similar to what you want to write about and see if they'll publish it in their publication or blog. But when it's something that you're writing yourself, that's what I'm struggling with right now. I mean, I've got it on my own blog. I've got it on my Facebook page. How am I going to get it picked up by other industries or other people? Like, where do we go to look for this type of backlinking and all that?
Is it like a personal blog, or is it your company?
It's for the company and the products that, about what's going on and what we're selling and what we're doing and how it can help people.
So what industry are you in?
This is for empty capsules and nutritional supplements. So part of some of the things that I've been writing about are, how to save money and save the environment by filling your own capsules. reduce packaging, reduce waste, and save money type of thing. I've written about that. There's also other, more scientific things about the actual product material itself, how it's completely vegan, environmentally friendly, so I can kind of branch off into different areas, but
to me, just like vegan and then health, there are so many people like blogging about those things. Like I feel like there are probably a million like vegan bloggers who would probably, depending on how you wrote it, and you just said, hey, maybe you haven't heard about this, I wrote this thing about like why my product is like vegan, and then you can send it to them and maybe they'll like republish it or something.
So you're saying look for blogs about similar topics,
yeah,
and to reach out to people.
Yeah, basically see who's already writing about stuff that you might write about in the future. All right, we got one more in the back, and then do you want to take it from there? And I think we'll probably wrap up because I think people are probably going to go to their next session.
Testing.
There you go.
My question is, obviously, it's not a short buying cycle to get someone from being interested to actually enrolling in courses, and I work for a company with a similarly long buying cycle. So in terms of content, do you find yourself not only creating content for specific personas, but also for people depending on where they are in their purchasing decision?
Yeah, so for us, especially with our programming bootcamp, Galvanize Full Stack, it's really a course for people who are what we call advanced beginners. So people have already taught themselves the basics of coding online, either through Code Academy, maybe reading tutorials, reading blogs, all that kind of stuff. But they know enough to know that they want to make programming a full-time career, right? They're not starting completely from scratch. So for people like that, we want to create content to help them get from absolute beginner to advanced beginner, and then they're ready at that point to apply for the program. And then at that point, they're sort of like, we have an enrollment team. They kind of talk with that person. They talk through like specific concerns they have, what their financial situation is, if they want to apply for scholarships. Like at that point, I feel like we kind of like hand them off, like they're in the funnel now, right? With data science, it is a little bit different because a lot of the people have a very solid background in the STEM field. Like we've had people go through our data science program who are like had a PhD in like astrophysics, so they're like way up there in terms of expertise. But for people like that, they really love reading about just like the nerdy new technologies that are coming up. So for example, like one of the posts we referenced, I don't know if we referenced it earlier, but Bo wrote this really great post about like these Python technologies that people were talking about at Data Science Summit in San Francisco. And so that's like, we're just trying to get the attention of those people who like are already sort of in the know, they want to learn what's next, and then they think of Galvanize as a place where like, oh, this is where you learn like, the newest technologies, and then, maybe once they fill out an application or get the application started, they're sort of like part of the funnel at that point.
Yeah, I would say also like, when you're creating content, sometimes think not just about creating content specifically you're not trying to particularly get a purchaser or someone to buy your product. You're maybe just trying to get them to know your name, to maybe come back and read another thing another time, and then once they become regular readers, then they may be more interested in actually using your product.
I mean, you're building trust, right? Like for us, we're really kind of trying to establish that like we want to help people learn. We're putting free resources out there. Even if they don't ultimately come to Galvanize, we want to help them get the resources that they need to get to, be a full-time programmer, a full-time data scientist, or a full-time data engineer. So that's really the perspective that we have, and I think that's what I have to say about that. Yeah, it's just
Article 1 might be just getting people interested in the subject that your product is around, and then not particularly Article 1, 2, 3, but like one thing. Somebody reads one thing that gets them interested in the general topic. Subject 2, Article 2 gets them interested in specifically your topic, or if they're going to do, and basically then by the end of it, you're trying to convince them, I'm now interested in this thing. If I'm going to use somebody, I'm going to use you.
And like, what I was going to say is sort of a subset of content marketing is like email marketing, so that can be really powerful for people who've already expressed interest. And so for us, for example, like we'll do drip email campaigns about like, here's what you're gonna learn at Galvanize, or here's some cool technology you should check out, or we have a lot of people who come to Galvanize who are interested in scholarships, so now we're building out this content about students who have gotten scholarships and who are now successful full-time programmers or full-time data scientists, so it's really kind of like encouraging them after they've expressed interest to really complete the application and hopefully become a student.
So really quick, just with, we have a huge list, we get like 5,000 list numbers, but it's like not huge against the rules. And so it's like we have this opportunity, but we're afraid of like bothering people so much. So how do you know how much to content push out to like email? So I'm afraid of like flooding them.
You know what? I would say, you can, would you use MailChimp?
No, we have a
Okay. Well, we use MailChimp, so it's really easy to see, like, obviously, I would say it's better to, like, push the envelope and, like, test people's sort of threshold. And if you lose a couple subscribers, like, whatever, it's not the end of the world. But it's better, I think a lot of people are too cautious about email. When I worked at 500 Startups, they would email people all the time, and they had, like, crazy open rates because they made sure every email was, like, really valuable. So I would say, actually go to their blog. They have a really good blog post about how they do email marketing. Yeah, 500.co/blog, they have a really good blog post about how they do email marketing. It's really informative. But with email marketing, like you can probably send out more emails than you think without bothering people. Yeah.
On that good point, on that audience, if they're signed up, they want something.
Yep.
They opted in for that.
Especially, so on MailChimp, you have to do double opt-in, depending on like where they sign up. And if somebody opts in twice, like they really want your content, like they're not gonna care if you email them 3 times a week. So, cool. Okay, so I think we're gonna wrap it up now. Thank you so much everybody for sticking around. The slides and the talks, as well as the live stream link at galvanize.com/blog. So check it out and give us some of those sweet page views. Have a good night. Everybody. It's food outside.